All right. Welcome to Alternative Venues for Jazz. And I want to thank Gail Boyd profusely for inviting me to join her platform and talk a little bit today. My name is TK Blue. T stands for Talib, which means student, and K stands for Kibwe, which means blessed. And Blue was my nickname growing up. So when I signed a recording contract with Arcadia Records in 1999, we decided to come up with the stage name TK Blue, which I've been using ever since. But welcome, and it's a pleasure for me to be here today and just talk a little bit about what I've been doing and about the pandemic, about Black Lives Matter, and just things in general, what's going on today. I grew up in Long Island in a town called Lakeview, Long Island, which is about 40 minutes from Manhattan. And we had some celebrities that actually lived in our neighborhood. And down the street from me was a great saxophonist, Billy Mitchell, who played with Count Basie and Thad Jones and Dizzy. And in fact, I met the great Melba Liston, trombonist and arranger for Randy Weston. I met her before I met Randy. I met her at Billy Mitchell's house when I was in high school. Also, there was a gentleman named Conrad Buckner, Little Buck, we called him. He was a tap dancer, and he was an incredible tap dancer. And through Little Buck, I met Eddie Jefferson, who was a close friend of his. A lot of people don't realize that Eddie Jefferson was a tap dancer before he became known as a singer and before he created that style of vocalese, putting lyrics to instrumental solos. And in fact, when I started playing flute, Eddie arranged for me to have lessons from the great James Moody. So I'm really indebted to Eddie Jefferson. And also another gentleman who lived down the street from me when I was growing up was a gentleman named Roger Lewis. Roger Lewis, he was an incredible architect. He designed many buildings, and in fact, he also designed the home of Milt Jackson. And speaking of Milt Jackson, I actually met his brother, Alvin Jackson, who was a bass player. I met him at Conrad Buckner's house. So I had a lot of elders who really schooled me when I was in high school to jazz and to the music. And when I went to college, I decided I had full scholarships to Syracuse, to New York University, and also Boston University. But I decided to go to New York University. And I'm glad I went into the city because during that time in the 1970s, there were many organizations in New York where you could study jazz for free. Jazzmobile, Jazz Interactions, Henry Street Settlement, and the Muse in Brooklyn. The Muse in Brooklyn, Reggie Workman was the band director. I had a chance to play in a big band that he directed. And Henry Street Settlement, the director was the great Paul West. And Billy Mitchell, in fact, taught at Henry Street Settlement. Jazz Interactions, I studied with Rahsaan Roland Kirk. And when he couldn't make the lessons because he would be going on the road, he would have a sub. In fact, one day he said, listen, I won't be here for the next 3 weeks. And we were like, oh, how you going to leave us like that? And he said, don't worry. I got a sub. You'll like him. His name is Yusef Latif. So that was incredible. And then the fourth one, as I mentioned, Jazzmobile, which I'm still affiliated with today. And Jazzmobile, quite incredible organization. Back in the 70s, they had the cream of the cream musicians teaching there. I think Lee Morgan used to teach there. I studied with Jimmy Heath, Frank Foster, Ernie Wilkins, Chris Woods, Freddie Waits used to teach there, Benny Powell, Ted Dunbar, Charlie Persip. Oh, the list is Sonny Red. The list is endless. Dr. Billy Taylor would come up. I met Barry Harris. And Jimmy Heath, in fact, Dr. Heath, I have so much love and admiration for him. And he just left us this year. He made his transition, and he's an ancestor. He was such a great human being, but Jimmy was responsible for me playing the alto saxophone, because when I met Jimmy, I was only playing soprano saxophone and been influenced by Coltrane, and I heard my favorite things, and I was playing flute. And Jimmy said, look, if you want to work in this business, you need to play alto or tenor, and then you double on soprano and flute and things like that. Plus, you need to know who came before Coltrane. And I said, like who? He said, like Bird, for example. You ever hear Charlie Parker? I said, no. He said, well, come to my house. And I went to his house in Corona, Queens, and he had this beautiful picture on the wall of him directing a big band and taking a solo with Charlie Parker. And in the band was my idol at the time, Coltrane, and he was looking at Bird in utter amazement. So I said, wow, I better find out what this guy is doing to have Coltrane look at him with that look of utter amazement. So that's how I got into playing the alto saxophone, because of Dr. Jimmy Heath. So continuing on, there's a lot of different things going on today. Well, let me just mention a couple of projects that I'm doing. Like most musicians, I'm sure, because of the pandemic, everyone has been composing and arranging. I have been writing some new music and also studying some music to record. I plan to do a project of music by the great Hale Smith, who was one of my teachers as well. And his wife is still alive. She's like my godmother, Juanita, and I see her quite often. And also I'm working on a project that's going to feature a lot of the African kalimba. I've been playing the African hand piano that has many different names: kalimba, sanza, mbira, lukembe. It all depends on what region in Africa you find it. In fact, I just found out, I was in Senegal a year ago, and I just found out I got a kalimba while I was there, and the gentleman told me that they call it bongo in that part of Africa. So I've been playing this since the 70s. I'm going to be doing a recording featuring a lot of the different instruments, African pianos that I have. And I just want to mention the gentleman, I was speaking earlier with Gail. He's still alive, the gentleman who taught me how to play the kalimba and how to make them and construct them. His name is Nadi Kamar. And Nadi, great musician. In fact, he played with Mingus and with a few other people whose names are escaping me right now, but Nadi is incredible. He's still alive, in fact. Nadi is 103. And I just got word recently that, he played with Nina Simone and a bunch of folks, but he's in the hospital out in the Midwest. And please send your prayers. I'm praying for him every day. I believe he may have caught the COVID, but he's in the hospital, and just praying that he stays with us. He's an iconic figure, especially for playing the African instruments and incorporating that into jazz. So that's another project that I plan to undertake. Now, considering the time frame that we're in, so much things are going on. Of course, like I'm sure I'm not alone. So many musicians. I had a tour lined up in Europe in March, and I was supposed to perform in Africa in May, and all these things, of course, got canceled because of the pandemic. So my feeling is we have to stay vigilant. We have to wear our masks. We have to keep social distance. The virus is still around the corner. We can't let up our guard. We have to stay vigilant and, try to prepare so that we can rid finally of this disease and hopefully return to some semblance of normalcy, whatever that may be. Things may not go back exactly as they were before the pandemic, but hopefully we'll get to some semblance of where musicians will be able to tour again and play for live audiences. I'm sure I echo the sentiment of many artists. It's not our cup of tea to play live stream for nobody in the audience. We do it because we have to, but it's not the ideal scenario. Music is a communal endeavor. It's a tradition that involves people. It involves everyone. It brings people together. It brings people together of all nationalities, of all races, colors, ages, and it brings us together in harmony and in peace and in love. And that's the beauty of music. And when you take away people, it's tough, so we just have to hang in there, and hopefully things will turn around. I was quite fortunate this summer and spring to do a few outdoor shows with people. It was social distance, and that was a wonderful experience for me. So we just have to hang tough, and like I said, hopefully things will turn around, that we'll be able to play for people and share that experience. Because when musicians play, the audience is an integral part of the band. When they give us their feedback, blow, yes, play, screaming, clapping, it gives us spiritual nourishment and energy. It makes the music even deeper and more profound. And also, music is a healing force. So when the audience comes and we all play together, we help to heal each other, especially during these challenging times right now. We were dealing with so much adversity. We have the Black Lives Matter movement, which surfaced after our brother Floyd was brutally murdered by a policeman in broad daylight in front of everybody to see. I think that for once we may have some concrete change coming along the way, because when I saw the onset of the Black Lives Matter movement and how it transgressed to so many countries, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, different places, you have people, they were all marching in unity for Black Lives Matter. And that was a first, because, during the civil rights struggle, it was predominantly Black folks on the front line marching for their civil rights and marching for to have the same privilege that white people have. We want to have the same privilege. Everybody deserves the same privilege to have a privilege to go to school where we want to go to school, to have good health, education. I'm a bike rider, and every day I ride for the most part in Liberty State Park near my house in Jersey City. And it's such a beautiful sight for me, because I see people of all colors and races in Liberty State Park, and they're all doing the same thing. Families, Jewish families, Islamic families, white, Black, Hispanic, it doesn't matter. Everybody has their kids. They're enjoying the beautiful weather. They want to see the Statue of Liberty. So we're really all one race. We're one people, and we should not be divided, and we should not let folks divide us. We should try to stay in a unified situation. And once everybody has the same privilege, then we all are free. We all will enjoy life to the maximum. As long as there are people that are downtrodden, people that don't have the same access to things that other folks have, that we won't be free as a human race. Once everybody has equality, the same privilege, I think things will progress beautifully for mankind. I was really happy to see that some of the magazines, I know in terms of jazz specifically, racism has been addressed, and there's been a lot of issues that have been brought up, in Downbeat and various magazines regarding racism in jazz. And I feel that we have to get to the root. Yes, we all know that we need more Black owners of clubs and more Black management, people in PR, radio, journalists, DJs, no doubt. One stat that really bothered me tremendously, I just read, was that recently in the United States, I think this last graduation, over 500 students graduated with jazz studies degree. Yet out of that 500, only 10% were people of color. And that's disheartening. And I think that my feeling is that we have to get to the root of the issue. I've been blessed to have taught at many schools and universities as well. And I did a lot of performances and days of jazz in Long Island. And the thing that hit me right away was the unbalance in terms of monies that are allocated to public schools. So I taught at Roosevelt, for example, which is a Black school in Long Island, and the music department was literally in shambles. piano had no strings. Instruments, I tried to teach students on certain wind instruments, and the instruments were broken, needed pads. It was very sad. And then a week or so later, I go further out Long Island to do a clinic at a predominantly all-white school. It's public school, but they have string orchestra, they have jazz band, they have a concert band, they have practice rooms. And I kept saying to myself, why is this? Why, this inequity? And so if we attack systemic racism at its root, starting with public schools, just funding, increasing the funding for schools that are in inner cities, schools that especially that predominantly serve Black community. They need more funds to have the same resources, because we don't have a feeder system now for jazz. I was an adjudicator, and I still do adjudication in some of the jazz competitions here in New Jersey for high school jazz competition. And in Tri-C, I did some adjudication watch a lot of college jazz bands perform. And again, you see very few people of color in these bands. And it's very disheartening. So we need a feeder system. If we have a better resources, so that these Black schools can have to supplement, they can have a great music program. We'll get people of color more interested in pursuing jazz, and whether it's as a musician or maybe behind the scenes as in management or in different areas that are associated with the music. But we need that so desperately. The inequity in educational funding is profound. And until we change it, things will not change. They'll kind of stay the way they are. So that's just my personal observation from doing a lot of things in schools. And racism, of course, is still prevalent. I was a director of jazz studies at Long Island University, LIU Post, for 7 years, and had tremendous accolades and support of my faculty and staff and the students, yet was denied tenure based on racism. I had to file a suit with the EEOC, and they ruled in my favor, and eventually I got a settlement, but I should not have had to go through all of that. And this is a reoccurring theme, that we have this racism on faculty levels in high school and colleges. So we have to attack this. We all are the same. We all are the same. We all striving for the same thing, and I think if we realize that once we all have the same opportunities, it'll make a better world, a better place for everyone. Some of the advice I've been given, a lot of advice. I know a lot of musicians, younger musicians now are very distraught, as I know they should be with the pandemic. I feel for many, many younger musicians who may not have a big nest egg and are struggling right now financially. Many who have put out recordings and were in the process of doing tours and performances to support their music. I mean, my tour again was to support my last recording that came out in November, called The Rhythms Continue, dedicated to the great Dr. Randy Weston. So we just have to hang in there. Don't get distraught. Your music is so important. It's so vital. All of you young musicians that are out there, regardless of where you come from, stay with it. Perseverance, vigilance, determination. Keep optimism at the forefront. Don't get pessimistic and feel like everything is not going to change. It will change, and your music is going to be needed very much so when this change comes about, because the planet has gone through so many negative phases right now. We're going to go through a healing situation after this pandemic, hopefully after this election. we'll go through a healing scenario, and the music that young people play today is so vital. It's important for us to use to help us to heal, to grow, and to learn. So please don't get distraught. And I think about some of the advice of my elder musicians that they have given me. Benny Powell was one. Benny, he had so many great sayings. In fact, we did a concert in a school in New York City, and he was interviewed, and the lady asked Benny, why do you enjoy playing in schools? And I thought about that myself because I play a lot in schools. And my thinking was, well, I like to share what I have with the younger generation and share whatever wisdom, whatever information or knowledge I have. And Benny, he summed it up in a very short saying. He said, I'd rather see a kid with a clarinet than a bayonet. So that always stuck with me. Benny used to always say, you only have 24 hours in a day, whether you're a judge or a junkie. Do the best you can in those 24 hours. Make every moment count. When Benny passed away in 2010, I started going to see his neighbor 2 floors up, Frank West, who was another one of my fathers and my mentors. And I love Frank dearly. He was just a great human being like Benny. And Frank always gave me great advice, always. He used to tell me, yeah, TK, you got to practice slow. What goes in slow stays with you. What goes in fast, it leaves you fast. And then the other thing Frank told me all the time, he said, TK, when you're taking a solo and you get to the end of the chorus and people are screaming and your mind says, go for a second chorus, don't do it. Stop. Leave them wanting more. So these are some of the great philosophy of some of my elders. The great Dr. Randy Weston, who I had the pleasure of working with for 38 years. And he was such a profound individual. There's so many words and things I can describe about him, but Randy used to always say, when you play a concert, it's not just about a gig. It's not just about playing a gig and getting a paycheck, but you have to come with yourself, give of yourself, tell your story, uplift the people, give everything from your heart. So these are things that I always try to keep dear to me. Just trying to think of anything else I wanted to touch on. But what I would say is that as we move forward now, of course, I advise everybody to vote. And this coming election is extremely important. Another thing that wasn't mentioned now, I didn't mention, but it's extremely crucial, and it should be in your mind when you go to vote, is our planet. Climate change. I'm also an avid scuba diver, and I see firsthand, and I read firsthand of the pollution and all of the things that are going on the planet in the oceans, and just the climate change in general, and the glaciers are melting, and 20 years from now, this planet may not be here. It may not be the same planet as we know it. It's very crucial. People think that it's so far off in the distance, but no, climate change is real. Think about that when you vote. You want to vote for somebody who's going to take these issues to heart and move on these issues. All the scientists have come universally and have said that we have to lower the temperature of our planet if we want to survive. There won't be any more music. There won't be any more anything. So all of us in our own part, we can do the best we can by recycling, not littering, trying to do the best you can in not leaving a large carbon footprint. The most you can do with recycling and using products that are recycled, I think, is extremely important. As I mentioned, I travel quite often in Africa, and a big problem in Africa that I see is recycling. In many countries, they don't have the machinery in place to recycle. This is extremely important. We have to recycle. It's a shame, it's a travesty when we see pollution, especially on the oceans. I was in places in Africa along the coast, and you just see plastics and debris washing up on the shore. It's very sad. So we have to think about all of these issues, I think, coming up now at this next election, about recycling, about climate change, Black Lives Matter. All of these things, I think, will help us in making the decision that we need to make to vote for the person that we feel will best convey the message and convey the feelings that we like to see implemented on this planet to enhance it and to make it a better place for everyone. So I think that's extremely important. And that's why I can't wait for the music to come back in the public forums for people to be able to come in and hear live music, hear live jazz, and walk away feeling uplifted, and for the musicians also to give of themselves and feel the love from the audience, because this is going to help us to, in the next phase that we're going to go through now, once this pandemic is over. So again, I think we have to keep vigilant, persevere. Musicians, we got to keep practicing, keep in the woodshed, keep writing, composing, networking, recording, and just plan the next phase, because things will turn around. Again, I feel extremely, like when I saw the Black Lives Matter movement go universal, it gave me a lot of optimism, because this was the first time to see that. So I feel that we will be a better human race. I feel that we will eradicate this disease and this pandemic. We will come out of it stronger, more knowledgeable. We'll come out of it with more empathy, with more consideration, with more altruism. We'll come out of it with more concern for our fellow human being, more concern to help people as much as we can, to share as much as we can with folks, and to be a guiding light, to be a positive force on this planet, a force for good. I think that's the key. I remember that interview, in fact, a reading interview that Coltrane did, and he always talked about, I want to be a force for good. I want to be a positive force. I want to uplift people in a positive way. And that's all we're trying to do as musicians, is to uplift people and give them love and keep that cycle, keep it going. So I want to say, God bless all of you. I want to say that it's been an absolute pleasure for me to be here today speaking on Gail's platform. I do have some things coming up, and I'm very happy to share with you. I'm going to do my first indoor performance with people coming up October 30th at Chris's Jazz Cafe in Philadelphia. With me will be the Webb Thomas trio, featuring the great bassist who's the father of Christian McBride, Lee Smith. And I'm really looking forward to that. We played together back in December, and it was fantastic. And then in November 27, 28, I will be in Baltimore, where, I spent a lot of time for many, many, many years. And I'm really excited to perform at the Keystone Corner, Tar Barker's new club. And we'll be doing a tribute to the great Dr. Randy Weston. And on hand for that performance will be Billy Harper. So thank you all. And I want to say, I pray every day for the well-being of our planet, for the eradication of this deadly pandemic. And I pray that we all will be safe with our families and extended families. feel free to contact me at any time, www.tkblue.com. God bless you.